All right, I'm a day late to this, but the quarterfinals are upon us in the Euros. But for the 8 teams that made it through, there's also 8 teams who didn't. And today I'm going to talk about those 8 teams and what went wrong for them, why they didn't make it through, and how upset or disappointed they should be with their group stage exits. Because for some nations, like Wales, for instance, being at the tournament was in itself a big enough win that I don't think missing out on the knockout stage is going to be viewed as some massive disappointment. But there are other nations such as Denmark or the Netherlands who will be more disappointed with their performances at the Euros and missing out. So, going to go through all of those, starting with Group A, where Iceland and Finland missed out. And as far as I am concerned with Iceland, I'm massively disappointed with them. I thought that they were going to do a lot better at this tournament. They've gotten a lot of decent players now, and they had a pretty decent team going into it. I believe the highest ranked team heading into their group. And they've just not worked out. Like, it hasn't worked out for them at all. I don't know what's up with that, but they're done. They were out within 2 games, and that was that. They had a better performance against Norway, but Norway wasn't even playing all of their first team in that match. So Iceland to not even score against Switzerland and Finland is not great. And there's some stuff you can say about that. You could say that they had a red card against Finland. They were playing a host nation against Switzerland. But even so, I really did expect a bit more from Iceland, so I'm disappointed with them for their group stage exit. As for Finland, it's a different thing entirely. That's just absolutely heartbreaking for Finland, who so nearly did have it. They actually did do really well as well because their expectations might not have been super high. They won their first game since 2009 at the Euros against Iceland, and so that was a really big deal. And then all of a sudden, they have the shot of actually making it to the knockout stage, which is something that they haven't done in a very long time. So that also would have been really big for Finland. And they lost to Norway, but everyone lost to Norway in the group. That's fine. And then it all came down to a match against Switzerland. And against the host nation's always going to be favored, but Finland really did give it their all. And for so much of the match, they were the better side. Like they had the lead, and they just needed to hold on a little bit longer. And for most of those last 10 minutes, I didn't see much of Switzerland that made me think they were going to score. But then they finally started putting things together at the very end, and in time added on to get that goal is massive for Switzerland. It's great for Swiss women's football, and the fact that that's going to create a massive amount of buzz around the team. But for Finland, that is heartbreaking, and it really sucks to go out of the tournament like that. So sorry to Finland because that's rough. Going into Group B, Portugal and Belgium, and Portugal and Belgium were probably the two who were most likely to miss out on the knockout stage. Spain was always going to win this group, and then it was just about who was going to finish second. And of those 3 other nations, Italy were the best one. So Italy were supposed to go through, and they ended up doing that. Portugal will be pretty disappointed with the loss against Belgium. Really, I think it's that last game that kind of decides how these teams are going to view the tournament, because I don't know if Belgium and Portugal are going to be massively shocked that they missed out on the knockout stage, even if it was a bit easier with Italy being their main opponent to that second place spot. But Belgium got the win on that last day, which means for Portugal, they finished last with 1 point, a draw against Italy, and a pretty good performance against Italy. But overall, I imagine they'll still be at least mildly disappointed with how the tournament went. Whereas for Belgium, I mean, I think that win might be frustrating because it suggests that maybe they could have done a bit more. But again, there's not too much riding on it for either of these teams, so I doubt either of them are going to view this tournament as a massive failure. Moving into Group C with one team who will view this tournament as a pretty big failure in Denmark. And I think that if they had beaten Poland on the final day, you still could have been a bit disappointed, but at least it's not like super embarrassing because they were the third best team in the group. Like Sweden and Germany were the favored teams to go through. So Denmark failing to beat those teams, it's not the biggest thing ever. But losing to Poland is a bit worse. And Poland making their tournament debut will be thrilled with this finish in the group stage. The fact that they managed to go into their first Euros and get a win, that's huge. And against Denmark, who are a pretty highly ranked nation, that's a big achievement for Poland. And Poland is, like, you can see them going in the right direction, and they really do seem to be putting a lot of investment and care into their women's team. You see that as well with Poland trying to host the Euros. Like, they didn't make it in 2025, they're bidding again for 2029, and it does seem like Polish women's football is going in the right direction, even if it's in a fairly meager position right now. But they managed to beat Denmark. That's huge for them, and I'm really happy for Poland. It's a shame for Denmark, though, because they'll just, in 3 games, 3 losses. That's very disappointing from Denmark, and the fact that they couldn't even beat Poland, who were supposed to be the ones who finished last with no wins, the tournament debutants who got a very tough group to be in. And that is something I should point out with Denmark. If they were in groups A or B, there's a very real chance that they would have progressed. But like, they couldn't beat anyone, and so that's just disappointing from Denmark. And that brings me into Group D, the final group, where we start with Wales, who had great fan support and were probably just happy to be there. I mean, it was always going to be like this for Wales. As soon as they were drawn into a group with the Netherlands, France, and England, like, that doesn't seem fair. Like, the draw was so incredibly unkind to Wales, and I guess that's what happens sometimes, but I think because of that, the kind of expectation around Wales is that they're going to be there, they're going to try and make a good account of themselves. And honestly, the fans are probably going there to have a fun time and just enjoy the fact that their team is in a major tournament, but maybe not expect them to win a lot of games. And Wales did get battered in every match, which I don't think was unexpected, but still, they managed to score 2 goals, and that in itself is something to be celebrated. And I'm just happy for Wales that they got that. They didn't get to celebrate any points, but they did get to celebrate goals, and those are nice moments to get. That when you can say we scored a goal in a major tournament, that's more than a lot of nations can say. So congratulations to Wales for being in the tournament, and I hope that this can help Welsh football and help them build towards a spot where eventually they're not just going to tournaments just to be there, but to actually compete. But that's for the future. Right now, I think Welsh people will be more than happy with being in the Euros. But the Netherlands will be more frustrated, and I think, like, it's kind of similar to Denmark in a way where it's not like they were in a super easy group. In fact, they're in a very hard group against 2 very good opponents in France and England. But I think it's more just how they lost to England and France, because they have a really talented team. And to lose to England and France in the way they did, to concede 9 goals in those 2 games, is massively disappointing. And I was at the game between France and the Netherlands. And, like, the defense was not very good from the Dutch. Like, Van Domselaar was let down a lot by her defense, I think. And 9 goals conceded is rough. I think, like, I remember in that game, I don't know if the TV cameras picked up on it or not, but when France scored that 4th goal, Van Domselaar did something weird, like, I guess not super weird, but it's not behavior you usually see from goalkeepers, is she went out of her box in the center of the field before the ball was kicked off, and she was talking to her teammates, I presume trying to get anything going for them, because at that moment there was absolute desperation. Like, there really was very little hope for the Netherlands at that point because they needed to win by 3 goals, and they were even winning at halftime, but very quickly they ended up going behind by a lot against France. Just boom, 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 France all of a sudden are untouchable in that match. So, like, she went out there, and that's kind of like a sign of how desperate the times were, because goalkeepers don't tend to do that in that manner. So again, not weird behavior, but something you don't often see unless it's desperate times, because I imagine what she was doing was trying to just get anything going for the Netherlands, try and get them to keep going, like try and get her teammates to keep going, but I just there was very little in them at that point, and the Dutch have a lot of questions to answer, especially around their defense now, because conceding 9 goals in 2 matches, no matter the opposition, is unacceptable. So, like, yeah, the Netherlands will be very disappointed, and I'll have a lot of questions to answer heading into the next tournament. And I think they can get back on their feet, and they do have a very talented squad. Part of the reason I'm a lot more critical of all the goals the Netherlands conceded and not all the goals Wales conceded is because Netherlands are of a higher caliber. I mean, this is the team that not too long ago won the Euros, made a World Cup final in 2019. Like, this is just, you can't play that poorly and expect to go through. So the Dutch didn't deserve anything, and they really gotta figure some stuff out before the next tournament. They got time to do that, but what a very poor tournament for them.